Welcome, fellow travelers, to a perilous journey through the annals of human destruction. We begin our expedition into the heart of conflict, exploring the deadliest weapons ever conceived by mankind, from the dawn of civilization to the apocalyptic edge of modern warfare. This is an unflinching look at innovation, savagery, and the cost of power, spanning every brutal epoch in history. Our tale commences in the primordial gloom of the Stone Age. Back then, when humanity still sought refuge in the cold, unyielding embrace of Stone Age caves, huddled against the unknown, the means of inflicting lethal harm upon one another were brutally simple, yet devastatingly effective. The crude tools of survival doubled as instruments of death. For countless millennia, the most potent weapon in a human's arsenal was nothing more than a simple, jagged stone, an unassuming pebble or a fractured shard of flint plucked from the earth itself. Despite its apparent simplicity, the stone was a surprisingly potent instrument of war and survival. A single, well-aimed strike with such a primal tool was often more than enough to shatter a human skull, as easily as cracking an eggshell. And its utility wasn't limited to close-quarters combat. Hurled with force and precision, these heavy projectiles could fell an enemy from a distance, becoming humanity's first ranged weapon. Then, a monumental leap in destructive capability arrived. One brilliant ancestral mind, perhaps driven by desperation or pure ingenuity, conceived of a revolutionary concept: to bind a sharpened stone securely to the end of a robust wooden stick. Thus, the spear was born, a marvel of primitive engineering that extended reach and amplified force. Imagine, some 70,000 years ago, a lone figure, eyes narrowed, consumed by primal fury. He glares across the vast, untamed landscape, an adversary just beyond his reach. He mutters, frustrated, "Man, I hate that guy over there, but he's too far away to stab him with this new spear, or even to effectively throw a rock at him." A desperate heave, a heavy stone arcs through the air, only to land harmlessly short. "You missed!" echoes across the desolate plain, a bitter truth spurring an innate need for greater range and accuracy. Indeed, such elementary tools, the mere stone, the early spear, comprised humanity's entire arsenal for the vast majority of our existence as a species. For eons, these were the ultimate expressions of our capacity for conflict. But as disparate tribes coalesced, as early settlements blossomed into sprawling civilizations across the globe, the nature of warfare irrevocably changed. With expanding populations and burgeoning empires came the inescapable demand for deadlier, more sophisticated armaments. Weapons were forced to evolve, pushing the boundaries of human ingenuity into a new era, the Bronze Age. This epoch would witness the forging of entirely new instruments of war. Take, for instance, the fearsome Macuahuitl, an ancient weapon. As civilizations around the world began to truly flourish, expanding their territories and clashing over resources, the very nature of conflict evolved, demanding more sophisticated instruments of war. We entered the Bronze Age, a transformative era where metallurgy reshaped warfare. Consider the terrifying ingenuity of the Aztec Macuahuitl, a weapon born of Central American ingenuity. Far from a simple club, it was a brutal hybrid of wood and razor-sharp obsidian blades, meticulously embedded along its edges. Each strike was designed not just to bludgeon, but to inflict horrific, tearing wounds that ensured a swift, agonizing end for any unfortunate foe. Though tragically, even such potent weaponry could not stem the tide of future conquests. Then there's the trident, an instrument with a surprisingly dual history. While it found its mundane purpose in the deep sea, primarily as a tool for fishing, its true dramatic calling came in the brutal sands of the Roman Colosseum. Here, it became the signature weapon of the retiarius, a unique and often underestimated gladiator. Clad with minimal armor, sometimes barely more than a loincloth, the retiarius relied on unparalleled agility and cunning.
Armed with his signature trident, a small dagger, and a weighted casting net, he would dance around heavily armored opponents, attempting to ensnare them before delivering a flurry of precise, often non-fatal wounds, designed to prolong the spectacle for the baying crowds, a deadly yet theatrical dance of life and death.
Beyond these specialized forms, the Bronze Age saw the widespread adoption of more ubiquitous yet equally deadly tools. Slings hurled projectiles with crushing force, while finely crafted bronze swords became extensions of a warrior's will. Spears, in myriad forms, from simple thrusting weapons to the fearsome curved Egyptian khopesh, dominated the battlefield. And crucially, the shield, providing both defense and an offensive edge in close quarters. These weapons, while formidable individually, truly unleashed their destructive potential when wielded in unison. The Phalanx, an impenetrable wall of disciplined warriors standing shoulder to shoulder, spears bristling outwards, represented the pinnacle of tactical innovation. This living battering ram advanced with an almost unstoppable force, transforming individual might into collective power.
Yet even this formidable array had its limitations. Such close-quarters implements, effective as they were against flesh and bone, proved woefully inadequate when confronted with the towering, well-fortified castles that would define the warfare of the coming Middle Ages. As necessity is ever the mother of invention, a new kind of weapon was about to emerge, born from the urgent need to breach impenetrable walls.
The formidable Roman legions, while masters of their domain, found themselves increasingly less effective at breaching the towering, well-fortified castles that became the hallmark of the next tumultuous period, the Middle Ages. Indeed, necessity has always been the crucible of invention. And when that dire necessity dictates breaching an enemy's formidable palace to mercilessly slaughter its inhabitants, humanity's ingenuity turns to devastating instruments, siege weapons. These colossal machines, often requiring the coordinated effort of multiple determined soldiers, were engineered for one brutal purpose: to dismantle the dreams of kings and empires, one stone wall at a time. While countless variations existed, each a testament to destructive creativity, let us explore some of the most memorable. First, the crude, yet surprisingly effective, siege hook. This large, imposing device was designed with a singular, brutal objective: to literally tear down a fortress wall. Soldiers would grapple onto the stone and with immense force wrench and pull, ripping sections of the mighty defenses away. Simple, direct, and undeniably effective. A solid 4 stars for its elegant brutality. Then came the trebuchet, a marvel of medieval engineering, first conceived in ancient China. Far larger and infinitely more deadly than its predecessor, the catapult, this behemoth could hurl a massive stone, weighing upwards of 200 pounds, across an astonishing distance of nearly 275 meters, almost the length of 3 football fields. Imagine the sheer terror, the deafening impact as such a projectile shattered against castle walls. Truly terrifying. 5 stars. The ballista, another instrument of destruction, essentially functioned as a giant, immensely powerful crossbow. The humble crossbow itself was already a formidable weapon, so scaling it up into a colossal, destructive force seemed, in the eyes of its designers, an unquestionably brilliant idea. 5 stars for magnified lethality. And finally, the battering ram, a weapon of raw, primitive force. It was nothing more than a colossal log, painstakingly carried and wielded by a determined group of soldiers. Their task, to repeatedly slam it against impregnable walls and sturdy gates, until, by sheer percussive force, they yielded. Yet, can one truly call this a weapon? While undoubtedly effective in its brute simplicity, Imagine the sheer tedium, the ceaseless back-breaking effort. Picture the agonizing splinters embedding themselves in your skin, the acrid smell of freshly pulverized wood irritating your eyes, and the excruciating pain should you and your comrades misjudge a swing and drop its immense weight squarely onto your poor, unsuspecting toes. 0 stars for user experience.
Remember, my channel is still growing, so I genuinely read and reply to every comment. Please share your own favorite siege weapon below.
While these terrifying technologies honed the might of armies on land, other civilizations, threatened by the vast expanse of the open sea, were simultaneously busy perfecting weapons to combat enemies arriving by naval fleet.
Behold, Greek fire. This enigmatic and deadly concoction was a thick, sticky mixture, capable of being ignited and burning with relentless intensity for hours on end, astonishingly, even when doused with water.
It was a terrifying prospect for any seafaring warmonger. Roman sailors, masters of its deployment, would weaponize this flaming liquid, spraying it directly onto enemy ships through ingenious bronze tubes,
or loading it into crude hand grenades to be tossed aboard opposing vessels, turning wooden ships into infernos. Greek fire proved so overwhelmingly effective that the Byzantine Empire went to extraordinary lengths to safeguard its creation. The precise recipe became a closely guarded state secret, lost to history. Even today, centuries later, the exact method of its manufacture remains unknown, though it is generally believed to share characteristics with a formidable modern flammable liquid, napalm.
We have now reached a pivotal juncture in history, a moment where we can begin to discuss the invention of a weapon that would not merely alter the course of battles, but fundamentally transform how all wars were fought, irrevocably changing our very existence as a species forever.
We have now arrived at a pivotal, terrifying threshold in human history, a moment where the very fabric of warfare, and indeed our existence as a species, was irrevocably torn and reshaped. This is the advent of a weapon unlike any that came before, a force that would forever redefine conflict: the gun. Unlike the calculated, often personal brutality of earlier arms, modern firearms possess an almost indifferent, terrifying efficiency at ending lives, a cold, mechanical promise of swift, devastating finality.
Our journey back through time reveals its primordial ancestor. In the year 950, the ancient Chinese, masters of innovation, conceived of a radical idea. They affixed a simple bamboo tube packed with their wondrous gunpowder to the formidable shaft of a traditional spear.
When ignited, this revolutionary device, which they named the fire lance, would erupt. A terrifying blast of fire would spray forth, scorching the air, engulfing the immediate vicinity of the unsuspecting foe. It was a spear, yes, but now imbued with a terrifying, fiery breath. Driven by grim ingenuity, they soon enhanced its lethality, adding shards of pottery, scrap metal, and lead pellets to the explosive mix. Upon ignition, these fragments would be violently propelled from the tube, transforming it into a rudimentary yet devastating projectile weapon. This ingenious and horrifying combination was the fire lance, a versatile, multifunctional weapon acting as a piercing spear, a fearsome flamethrower, and crucially, the world's very first gun, all rolled into one brutal package. Imagine the terror of facing such an inferno. This dark epic in military invention laid the grim foundation for an entirely new paradigm of warfare, one steeped in unprecedented innovation and, tragically, unparalleled cruelty. The objective transcended mere victory or territorial gain. Now, the explicit goal was not merely to defeat your enemies, but to annihilate them with overwhelming, rapid destruction, to inflict the most unimaginable pain and suffering possible. The aim was to instill such profound, paralyzing terror that all future resistance would simply wither and die. As the annals of history painfully illustrate,
This insatiable hunger for destructive power would only intensify, spiraling into ever more horrific erations. The shadow of the gun heralded the coming of global conflicts, shattering the perceived limits of human violence.
Indeed, the First World War would utterly transmute humanity's approach to organized violent conflict. Just decades removed from the Industrial Revolution, humanity found itself with an abundance of new, horrifying tools.
World War I, a conflict that would forever scar the 20th century, dramatically reshaped how humanity conceived of and engaged in violent conflict. Fueled by the preceding Industrial Revolution, an era of unprecedented innovation, humanity found itself armed with a terrifying arsenal of new technologies, each designed with a singular, grim purpose: to kill more efficiently.
The battlefields of the First World War became proving grounds for these advancements, witnessing the devastating power of rapid-firing machine guns, the explosive force of grenades, the lumbering, unstoppable might of tanks, and the nascent yet deadly threat of warplanes dominating the once peaceful skies. Yet, even amidst this technological leap and destruction, these conventional weapons paled in comparison to a truly insidious horror that emerged from the fog of war. They were not the most terrifying instruments of death employed during this brutal epoch, not by a long shot.
Days have stretched into an unnerving calm. The relentless roar of artillery has momentarily subsided. You and your weary comrades find a fleeting moment of respite, a fragile illusion of safety. Shifts are taken on watch, eyes scanning the desolate no-man's land. But the silence persists, broken only by the distant murmur of the battlefield. No enemy activity to stir the growing unease.
Then, the piercing cry of the watchman shatters the stillness. On the horizon, a monstrous, unnatural cloud emerges, a thick, yellowish-brown miasma, advancing with chilling speed, propelled relentlessly by the wind.
Panic seizes your gut. As a trained WWI soldier, you face death countless times, but this is different. There's no tangible foe to target, no enemy uniform to aim for, only this silent, creeping terror. Instinct takes over. Your only recourse is to flee from this unseen, suffocating horror. You run, desperately, your lungs burning, but the gas is faster, more pervasive. It sweeps over the trenches, an inescapable wave.
You are enveloped completely, the world around you dissolving into a choking, toxic fog. Immediately, your skin erupts in agonizing blisters. Your eyes swell shut, plunging you into terrifying darkness. Each breath becomes a searing torment, a desperate struggle for air that tears at your throat.
Even if, by some miracle, a WW1 soldier were to escape the immediate cloud of mustard gas, the suffering would be far from over. Weeks of unimaginable agony would follow, lungs swollen and burning, skin horrendously blistered, uncontrollable vomiting, and the horror of permanent blindness, slowly leading to an inevitable, agonizing death.
Gas attacks, in their myriad horrifying forms, were employed by all sides throughout World War I, but none instilled such widespread terror and suffering as mustard gas. The sheer barbarity of its effects eventually led to international condemnation, with treaty laws ultimately banning the use of toxic gas in combat, deemed too inhumane even for a conflict that claimed over 20 million lives. That truly speaks volumes about its unspeakable horror.
World War I, famously dubbed the war to end all wars, proved to be a tragically premature epithet. The world soon plunged into an even greater cataclysm when a certain Austrian painter's insidious ambitions unleashed World War II. While poisonous gases, though in different, equally horrific contexts, persisted, this new global conflict unfolded with familiar brutality. Battles raged, Countless lives were extinguished amidst screams of despair, and then, eventually, it too concluded.
However, the manner in which this war reached its terrifying crescendo was unlike any other conflict in human history. It introduces us to the story of the final, ultimate weapon, forever altering the course of warfare.
This was a conflict fundamentally different from any other war fought before or since. Here, we delve into the chilling story of the final weapon, born from a desperate race against time and an ambition to achieve absolute power.
As World War II raged, both the Allied and Axis powers found themselves locked in a clandestine, terrifying arms race. Each side desperately sought to harness recently discovered nuclear technology, not for energy, but for a weapon of unimaginable scale, the ultimate bomb. A device so profoundly destructive, it would leave the opposing forces no choice but utter, unconditional surrender. The fundamental principle involved the element known as uranium-235. When this unstable isotope is compressed with sufficient force, it initiates an atomic chain reaction, a cascade of splitting atoms releasing exponential amounts of energy in an instant, culminating in an explosion of monstrous proportions.
The relentless scientific pursuit, often at a terrible cost, eventually saw the Americans achieve this horrifying breakthrough. Many brilliant scientists and researchers tragically sacrificed their lives, directly or indirectly, in the race to unlock this devastating power.
The culmination of their work was Little Boy, the ominous code name given to the first nuclear bomb ever to be deployed in warfare. This monstrous device, weighing over 9,000 pounds, was unleashed upon the unsuspecting Japanese city of Hiroshima on August 6, 1945.
The immediate aftermath was a hellish inferno. Tens of thousands of innocent civilians perished instantly in the searing flash and blast wave. Countless more endured agonizing deaths in the weeks, months, and years that followed, succumbing to the invisible, insidious killer of radiation sickness. World War II, a global conflagration that had claimed millions of lives, officially ceased less than a month after Hiroshima. It became brutally clear. No matter the fanaticism, no matter the military might, you simply cannot fight an enemy capable of raining such horrifying, indiscriminate death upon you from the heavens.
Unless, of course, you possess the capability to rain it right back upon them. This grim realization plunged the world into a new era of fear and technological escalation. Countries around the globe immediately entered a furious nuclear arms race, each vying to create the biggest, most destructive bombs imaginable.
It was soon discovered that the process of nuclear fusion, the very force that powers the stars, was even more potent than fission. This cosmic phenomenon, which occurs in the cores of stars constantly for billions of years, was now terrifyingly recreated for a mere fraction of a second on Earth. The zenith of this terrifying scientific ambition was the Tsar Bomba. This behemoth, the most powerful explosive ever created by humanity, was developed by the Soviet Union and detonated in a test on October 30th, 1961. The colossal, devastating death cloud it unleashed soared to an astonishing height of 67 kilometers, a horrifying plume about as tall as 8 Mount Everests stacked one upon the other.
The nuclear bomb, in all its terrifying, world-ending forms, stands as hopefully the last weapon humanity will ever need to conceive. There is no genuine defense against it, only the chilling calculus of mutual assured destruction, the fear that your enemy will retaliate with their own instruments of annihilation. And thus, in this grim stalemate, no further truly necessary developments seem possible or even sane. Perhaps, with this final, ultimate nightmare weapon, it is finally time for humanity as a species to confront its destructive tendencies, to move on from this endless cycle of violence, to stop killing each other and start doing something actually productive and profoundly meaningful, like, for instance, hitting that subscribe button and joining our community. As always,
Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, farewell.